Welcome to Sharing My Truth with Mel and Susie, the uncensored version, where we bear it all.
We do.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, hello. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Sharing My Truth Pod. I'm Susie. I'm here with Mel, and we are Sharing My Truth Pod. And you can follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, the whole bits and bobs. And I'm here with my good friend Mel. Hi, babes.
Hello, darling.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, we have, I know you were just in London.
I was in
And?
the motherland.
And it was lovely weather, which is
The
very
weather was
unlike.
nice. Well, it tends to be quite nice in May. It's just unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yes. But it was very, very nice. And it's good to be back. It's always good to go back,
Yeah.
so get my, injection of Britishness,
I love that.
all my treats and all my whatevers, and
Yeah.
see my family and friends and stuff like that.
I love
So it's always good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's always nice to have kind of some time away from good old Toronto. And it's always nice to kind of just to see your old friends, to see your old temptations, as we could say.
Temptations.
Do you have old
Gosh.
flames in London who you see sometimes that Max knows or doesn't know about?
Not really, because it was so bloody long ago,
Yeah.
Susie. Not really.
No, I mean, I guess it was. It was a
Yeah,
little
no.
while ago.
And I didn't spend all my childhood there or all my adulthood there, so that would be complicated.
That's so funny though. If
But-
you did, if you if you just saw them in the streets, I mean, like, because when I go back to Edmonton,
Yes.
where I am born and from, it's bad. It's bad because
Oh,
I
you
was
see them.
I was very involved in Edmonton,
Right.
and I have a lot of not ex-boyfriends, but just exes of all kinds.
Right.
So it's
Experiences.
experiences,
Yes.
and I see them with their babies. I see them with their new wives. And
Oh,
their,
wow.
And some of them are just not as cute as they used to be. So I'm like, goodbye. That was very nice.
That's very funny.
But yeah, not tempted there. I'll say that.
Okay, that's good.
But what's so great is that we actually did get a listener to call in, and he left us a voicemail. And for anyone who also wants to leave us a voicemail, you can go to our Instagram and our link. There's a link in our bio, or you can also just go to our website at sharingmytruth.com, and you can leave a voicemail. There's a button right at the top. And so yeah, this listener, he left a voicemail, and we are not going to. We're not going to put the recording in the podcast because just in case we don't want to name any names
Yeah, of course.
or anything, we're going to leave it very anonymous. But I'm just going to read from what he has spoken to us.
His question, really.
His question. So this is from our listener. How do you get through your relationship when you have more sexual chemistry with so many individuals? And how do you always say no to temptations? How do you battle the everyday flirtations, innuendos, and direct approaches for sex?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is a really good question because it's not exactly about cheating, right? Like, this
No.
person sounds like they have not cheated yet,
Right.
or anything like that. They're just being extremely tempted upon, and
Tempted upon. Did you
tempted
just-
upon, and they would like to, or I don't know if they would like to, but they're obviously thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we don't know obviously how long they've been in their relationship or what the relationship is like at all. But from what it sounds like, I mean, this person might be having a hard time and he might be getting close to getting in
the line.
cheating space. To the line. That's a great point.
From my point of view, would
Yeah.
you like to hear my point of view?
No, sometimes.
I love that. I think this question is as old as time, and
Yes.
this is as old as Adam and Eve. I mean,
Oh, great.
everyone. This is the question about monogamy. Does it work? Does it not work? I mean, this is the point: is that just because you fall in love with somebody or you have strong desire, all those things for one person, and you really want to be just with that person and make a life with them, obviously doesn't mean So there are lots of chocolates in the chocolate box. It doesn't
Yes.
mean you've had one, you don't want any of the others.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that you're a human being, that you don't like react or feel or something. You know, it's the same like you have a crush when you see an actor, an actress or whatever, you know, like, of course you react to things, and you're not in a box. You don't like put yourself in a box and shut the box and never temptation shall ever come your way ever again. It's really a question of, if you're with somebody and it is monogamous, that's up to you. It is, you've both decided that you want to be monogamous. That is the agreement. Then you can be tempted. Of course, there'll be flirtation and banter and people approaching you, for goodness sake, but you just don't do it.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
And I think that's a really good point that you just like putting yourself in a box is like, I think that's when shit gets dangerous, right? Because I think that's when you're tempted more.
Of
It's
course,
actually
yeah.
when you've put yourself in the situation where you're like, yeah, no, I'm not ever going to look at another woman or another man, or of course I'm not attracted to this other person. Of course you are. That's just human nature. It's okay to be attracted. It's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to be tempted
Of
in
course,
the way.
of course, it's
but
not
you're
cheating.
not exactly. You're not.
It's-
You
you
can't feel
can't-
bad about that.
No, and the other thing, you can't stop people approaching you.
No.
You don't. Somebody's going to say something to you or approach you on the street or whatever. You have no control over that.
No.
It obviously, I think the question I would ask this person really more is, if you are giving it this much thought, in other words, you are thinking about it. It's not just like, sure, I see people that I fancy. That's a very English word, isn't it? Or you fantasize about other people that may not be your partner, or you have crushes on other people, but you don't actually feel the impulse to really want to do anything about it in the real world.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me, perhaps this person is, like you said, maybe somewhere between that and the next step. So
Yeah.
they are thinking about it a lot. So that would be my question. Why have there been lots of situations and you're thinking about it a lot? Because of course there are situations. I mean, you can go to a restaurant and somebody can flirt with you, or
Yeah.
some people flirt with. It's not really a big deal, is it?
No.
I know some, I certainly know people where the relationships have been where people get very upset if you even have a slightly flirty conversation with somebody or anything like that. But I think, how could you possibly think that you're never going to find somebody attractive ever again just because you're in a long-term relationship? That's completely mad.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the whole thing with like jealousy too. And we obviously have also a podcast episode about cheating.
Yes.
Fully. And this isn't exactly what this is about. This is about temptation, which is a very different thing. And we had our conversation before we started recording. It's like, temptation is not cheating, because there has to be levels to this.
Of course.
You can't just have someone come up to you, like you're saying, talking to you, or even like, and I mean, there are lines for different couples, right?
Absolutely.
And even like if we have spoken about like, ethical non-monogamous relationships. So even those relationships have lines.
Of course.
Even non-monogamous relationships have lines of like, I asked you not to give another person a blowjob. That's a line that your partner had for you. Maybe you could make out with them, but you weren't supposed to fuck them.
Right.
And that's their
boundary.
line, and that's their exactly, that's their boundary. And it's like, why were you so tempted to do that? Because we get in these ways.
Of
It's
course.
just, it's finding the internal, like fighting that internal whatever you have in you, and not
And that's it. You have
giving
to
up
find,
on it.
And of course, people can love people. I think people don't understand this, that you can love somebody, but sometimes you kind of can go through ebbs and flows of not finding them attractive, but maybe being bored or distracted
100%.
or whatever it is. And that you are a human being. But this is very different to actually cheating, which, as we said, we had another episode, and also cheating happens for a myriad of reasons. And it's not just that there's something wrong in the relationship. There could be lots of things. But that's the thing about temptation. There are temptations everywhere in life about absolutely everything. There's temptations for, some people who get themselves into difficult situations where they steal stuff or whatever. There's temptations.
Yes.
in
Even
life.
like from our last episode when we were talking about body image, temptations with eating.
Absolutely.
And like, fuck, you're on a diet.
Yes.
You don't want to have pizza. on a Saturday night, but it goddamn looks so good.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're like,
how do you stop yourself from doing that?
Right.
It's the exact same
Yeah.
thing. How do you, when you're on a cleanse, how do you
Yeah.
not have that amazing glass of wine after a hard
Yeah.
day of work? Like
100%. Or you
it's-
smoke or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Or something you don't want to
it's about
do.
self-preservation and just
Self-control.
self-control.
And,
exactly.
and the self-control, the desire to control yourself has to be stronger than the desire of the
Yes.
temptation. That means in most cases you don't do something because you don't want to hurt the
Yeah.
person you're with and you know it's going to cause them a lot of pain. But if you think, and I think this is actually specifically women do this,
Mhm.
and I know I've talked about my issues with cheating in previous episodes, but you have to be realistic that sorry, I'm getting lost in my thoughts, but that women think that men don't see a nice woman and a beautiful woman, and look, they basically in their head it's like a computer. They undress her. What do her tits look like? What does she look like in a swim?
I do that, though,
What does her
too.
vagina look like? Blah blah blah. They basically go
Yeah.
through this kind of inventory. If you actually think your husband doesn't do that about other women or your partner or whatever, of course he's done it, and it's like,
Yeah.
but it's not a big. That's not a big deal. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
But it's sort of and I think that women often think that if men do that, somehow they're in the realm of cheating.
Yeah.
That's just ludicrous. That's bullshit. I mean, if you think about porn, like, then they wouldn't watch porn if they weren't interested in other images.
100%.
And that is not, there's nothing unnatural or strange about it. It's just that you have to, you control yourself. That's it.
You literally control
I
yourself.
mean, that's
and
it.
trust me, from someone speaking who is a very sexual person and just literally just wants to fuck a lot of the time to a lot of people, it's fucking hard. Self-control is not easy in any ways. And whether it's about a diet or sex or any kind of temptation,
We all have our things.
we all have our things.
We all have our issues. I mean, it's interesting that we're talking about temptation, because I honestly have to say, I just rarely meet people I think, yeah, or men. I think, yeah. And I think I meet the wrong fucking men.
I
Is
think so,
really what it is,
too.
because I'm just like, "Ugh." Actually, this happens to me all the time. I've said this to you
Yeah.
yesterday. This happened to me. Sorry, this happened to me yesterday. I say this to you all the time. I'm on the subway, and this man. I was actually on the subway with my husband, and this man who's probably about 80.
Yeah.
And he got off, and my husband's like, he has stared at your tits the entire time. But it's always men who are 80.
Not the
So
80-year-old.
This is why I don't have an issue, because the men who are staring at my bazumbas are not of any interest to me.
That was such a good word.
Bazumbas?
Oh my God. That's what I'm calling them from
And
now on.
they are quite bazumberish, i.e. big. Does that not, bazumba makes you think, whew,
I want a couple bazumbas.
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 But anyway, so that's how I've solved my problem. But I'm just saying, but this isn't,
Well,
I
it's
don't
also-
want to laugh.
yeah.
It's not funny. This is very serious. And I just want to say, it is serious. But I want to say to this person,
Yeah.
this is completely normal.
Yeah.
Everyone has struggled with
Yes.
this at some point on some level, with whether it's them or their partner or whatever. It is a normal human thing, and of course you can't control whether you find somebody else attractive, but by finding somebody else attractive is not betraying the person you are with. That's the thing to understand.
Yeah.
As long as you don't do anything.
Well, I do think also, like, and it is, I think that it's harder for men
Yes.
because, one, we've spoken about this, it's just biology.
Yes.
And men are much more physical people.
Yeah.
When men cheat, or if they feel more tempted, let's say, it's because that they might have some kind of a physical void in their relationship they're in. And that obviously that could be the way of women. It's not just like black and white. But in the way of women, and why they may feel more tempted, is because of the emotional void that they're not feeling. Maybe they want more attention in their relationship that they're not getting, or it's maybe spiritual and they just feel like they have to, some kind of higher thing is bringing them to a different level than what their partner's at. And they feel like they have to kind of move away from this.
Is that
person?
women you're talking
Women
about?
I'm talking about, sorry.
Yeah.
So just men are much more physical. Women are much more emotional and spiritual in the way of like their temptations and their cheating.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just
And
basic
also-
biology. The
Yeah.
boys have to swim. They've got to get out. And I think I said this to you, like the only time in my life I've really understood this, like, you know, the term blue balls, like you know.
Of course.
I mean, obviously, I don't have balls, so I don't know what that is like. But the only time in my life I've ever understood what that could possibly be like is when I was breastfeeding,
Yeah.
and your boobs get so big, and so if they're not like, you know,
Yeah,
the
sucked
milk
on.
doesn't come exactly. I was trying to make that not sound weird, but they get so huge, they
Yes.
literally feel it's horrible that they're going to implode. And if you think my boobs are big now, they
Right.
were absolutely as large as my head, each one. That's a lot of boob.
Oh my God.
And they were like just ready to like implode unless it's kind of released.
Yeah.
And this is a very strange analogy, I realize, but it's the only time I've understood. If your balls are full, it's
You got to get it out.
yeah. And so women, their desire for sex and the way they're aroused is totally different.
Yeah.
Because although obviously you feel aroused, but women, it's easier to control that. You just kind of pull it back. You can actually, in your mind, pull it back.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you don't want to do something. And sometimes, obviously, if you've had too much to drink, you kind of go further sometimes than you should have done, you know,
Yeah.
because that barrier is removed.
Yeah.
But with men, there is a biological, I mean, that's what I think, and somebody's probably going to gun for me, but I think that there is a biological need, and that is probably why temptation, if it goes too far, it happens for a number of reasons. But I would like to caveat this, Susie, by saying I'm not in any way excusing this.
Of course not.
And-
Especially you not.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, I do think there's because we looked at some facts, didn't we? Is that biologically, supposedly,
Yes.
there is that difference between men and women, and the idea of
100%.
temptation, and why women and men might be more, or men might be more likely to be tempted than women. Although the facts on cheating don't actually bear any of this out, so
No.
we could be just talking a
But
load
it's
of bollocks.
also, I mean, it's so hard because I'm going to give it to men. Women are just way more attractive. You
Who
know
are
what I
more
mean?
attractive?
Women are more.
Oh yeah.
Way more, you know what I mean? That's and like I get it. It's fucking hard being a man in today's age when there's a whole slew of hot women out there to look at, especially on Instagram, in porn, in person. You're literally bombarded with hot women everywhere.
Right. Yes.
And so I'm not saying it's easier for women because there's also hot men in most
Not
of these
as
places.
many.
I mean, like if you're a hot young woman
Apparently not
downtown,
in porn. I don't know where
No,
all
not in
the
porn.
revolting the men.
but
in
like I'm
porn.
saying, like in person, like you get like, you know, you're out with your girls. There's and if you're like, you know, you're trying to have a good time, there's always some single man or some other man who
Or an
wants to come
80-year-old,
talk,
yeah.
or an 80-year-old who wants you,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and
And it's
not easy for
It's
everyone.
not necessarily the other way around.
yeah,
I think it is easier for men to find women than women to find men. I don't know. That's another whole thing about
women
why
are more
that is.
picky.
Yeah. And now I'm going to get criticized saying like standards or.
Yeah, of course.
But women, yeah,
Men would fuck a pie. There's a
But-
whole movie on it.
there is. Yes, they would.
You
They
know?
would. Yes.
So I yeah, we're not. Yeah, that's good though.
What's good though? That there's,
Just that women have maybe more standards. I'm happy for us.
I am very happy for us, and I definitely have those standards. So you know.
We were talking about also hall passes
Yes.
and obviously like bachelorette parties in the way of like these are what they used to be. It used to be just kind of get out of your fucking system because you're gonna be married or whatever it
Yes.
is. Maybe you are married and you're like you're gonna go on a trip. I know what you're gonna do. You can have 2 days to fuck around and then you're back to it. Or how does it work? I've never had a hall pass.
No. Well, neither have I. But I think the
I think
point
they-
of a
yeah.
whole pass. So
There's
what
a whole
you're
movie
there's
about
two
it, too.
things. Yeah, there is a whole movie about it. There's several that are appalling, but that's another discussion. But there's two things. Like a hall pass is when you've actually agreed. You've actually had a conversation. It's not some theoretical bullshit or you think it's okay. You've actually agreed, right?
Yes.
Very rarely is that ever going to happen. The second thing, when you're talking about bachelor parties, we call them stags in the UK, where I know a few situations. I'm obviously not going to divulge those situations. For many, many years ago, I hasten to add, where the men went on a bachelor parties, their stags, and they did do things they shouldn't be doing, and their wives do not know and never found out, and that is definitely not what you should be doing.
No.
So Just remember that, boys. Just because it's your stag, which is a terrible name, or your bachelor, that doesn't mean you're still a bachelor or a stag, or either of those two. Yeah, you're not those things. You're going to have a fun time with your mates and perhaps drink a bit too much.
Yeah.
I mean, you might end up in a titty bar,
You're not
but
trying
you're
to fuck a
not
hooker.
meant to touch the titties.
Yes.
That's the key. You can look at stuff. Don't touch it.
You can look at a pussy. We're not going to say no.
Well, in some countries that's legal. That's legal here, isn't it? The whole nudie thing.
Yeah.
In different countries, it's you get just the tits. And anyway, this is going a whole
I
different
think it's
direction.
province to province.
Is it really?
I believe so.
I'd love to be in that meeting, in that government meeting. So in this province, we're allowing
No vaginas.
In Ontario, we allow the vagina to come out.
The G-string has to be at least 2 inches.
Yeah.
Cross the
That-
vulva.
That would be fantastic.
I want to be in that meeting as well.
Doug Ford, if you'd like to call me, I want to be on the committee for that. That's very
Oh my
funny.
God, that's really, really funny. But yeah, so like hall passes, do they work? We don't know. We haven't had one. We don't know. I mean, I think they might. I think in certain relationships, and you talk about it and you've been in the relationship and you have actual trust.
If you
in the
both go and
relationship?
do it, then I think it can work. Traditionally, I think the whole pass was often given from the woman to the man.
Well, yeah.
If you both go and do it, and then you both come back and you talk about it, not the actual nitty gritty ins and outs, because nobody really needs to hear that, but just like kind of what happened, then okay, I can sort of see how that possibly could happen. Not in a million bajillion years could I ever have done that.
Yeah.
However, I do understand that, but I think you both need to go and do it, because if you don't, it's going to be lingering there
100%.
forever. And then you're going to do,
Secrets.
well, the temptation's going to come. That's terrible. No pun intended. Sorry. Temptation's going to come along, and you're going to fall into the pool of temptation and do the dirty. And then you're going to think, oh, it's okay because I didn't use up my hall pass. But it's not okay, because you should have done it when you had the hall pass. The hall pass expires. There's an expiry date. Anyway, enough
So you
about
have to
hall
talk about
passes.
you have to talk about the expiry date when you're doing a hall pass.
Yeah, I think it has to be within
2 days.
a
you get
defined
May
2
20,
days, that's
May
very
21st to May
precise.
22nd, because you're out to Connecticut for a hall
Right,
for
right. It has
a
to be
holiday.
decided a holiday in Connecticut. That's
Where
kind
all
of
the
a very-
hot women are,
very
obviously.
random thought. Yeah, but it has to be a specific time, and if you don't find anybody, well, tough bananas, really.
Tough bananas, exactly.
I mean,
well, there's also there's levels of commitment
yes,
in relationships,
Yes.
and obviously should be communicated.
absolutely.
But with
That's not in
partner.
your head.
No.
You've actually got to have spoken about that.
So it's like
I know lots of people.
are-
It is in their head.
yeah, so
but
it's
you-
like, are you actually committed to this person, and have you spoken about it, and how much are we both communicating and committed to each other?
Absolutely, and I think pretty much most people have issues with this.
Yes, they
Because it's very
absolutely do.
difficult, and then the idea of talking about what you actually want and what you think the other person wants to hear and is not going to get offended,
Yeah.
etc., is a very fine line.
It truly is.
It really is problematic.
But sometimes you just gotta kind of, and some people say this, I'm not saying this is right,
Oh yeah,
but
you're going to say it, Susan.
sometimes people say it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
is it?
I've no idea.
Maybe it is. Like, maybe you do the dirty, as we say.
Mm-hmm.
You come back, you feel bad about it. You're like, that's actually not what I wanted to do. And then you try to ask forgiveness.
Depends how many times you've done it.
Well, maybe it was just the one time. Let's
Just
just
the
say
one time. I think it depends on.
who the person is, obviously.
Yeah.
What the relationship's
So
like.
some people it might be fine, and they might go, "Okay, it was just sex," and that's one thing. Obviously, if there are emotions, that's another whole thing, and that's very painful. I think it really depends on who your partner is, and at the end of the day, if you're with this person,
Yeah.
you know where their line is.
Yeah.
So you know that if you say it, they're just going to lose their shit, like me.
Yes.
So I would lose my shit. That would be the end. That's it. Whereas
100%.
other people would be like, okay, that's not cool. It just really does depend on the. But yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. Permission rather than for forgiveness.
Forgiveness. It is very interesting because I think a lot of people don't do it this way. I think like how I thought about it was when I was like, doing something bad and I was like a teenager. And it's
Right.
way easier to ask forgiveness from your
Right.
parents than it is to ask permission for
Right.
some things.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, in this day and age, yes, maybe sometimes it is just easier to talk to your partner after the fact when you actually have more clarity on the situation.
Right.
Instead of when it's all kind of jumbled in your head, you think you want to do this, you don't know if you want to do it. Maybe you're gonna do it, you have a plan, but you're like, I don't fucking know. And so you do it because it's so exciting and enthralling and exhilarating. And then you come back and you're like, I didn't want to fucking do that. That was horrible. But I have
Right.
to tell my partner because I
Right.
have a conscience. So it's really, really difficult.
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to know how old this caller was who called us, because I do think that's an interesting thing. Like, if you're younger, like your age, you're 28, or you're much younger, you're probably more likely to be in a situation where you're meeting people. Like,
Yeah.
I go out a lot socially and I have lots of friends, but it's kind of the same people. They're all married. I'm not like meeting fantabulous. I love everyone. You're my friends. I'm not saying that you're not fantabulous, but I'm not meeting new people.
Yeah.
And I also think the older you get, if you have kids and you work and so on, you obviously don't go out socially the way you did when you were younger, because quite frankly, there aren't enough hours in the day and I'm tired.
Yep.
And it's just different. It changes. So your circle is different. You have less and less time for your friends because there's so much going on in your life. So you don't meet as many people. So maybe the temptations are different. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? Whereas obviously when you're younger, you're going out all the time. You're in bars, you're in places, in clubs or whatever you're doing. You're in places where there are new people all the time, all the time. And who are young, who are also young and fit and
wanna
youthful
fuck,
and want
yeah.
to fuck. Exactly. And that's the other thing, is your frame of mind. If you actually... what this person's frame of mind is your frame of mind, like, it sounds like his frame of mind is like, I want to be doing this. I feel like, yes, I know this. It's sort of like, I know this is right and I do want this. However, I kind of want that too, and I want to do that too. So where are you on that dial? So I would say, if I take myself, for example, I'm not in that frame of mind of wanting to meet anybody else or have sex with anybody else. And therefore I don't really meet them. Because I don't go to clubs and bars. God, I don't know actually, bars, maybe that's different. But clubs, not for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think that kind of stops in your late 20s anyways, usually. For clubs specifically. Bars,
you
bars
just
everyone
get
goes to.
Bored of it.
Well, yeah, like no one's fucking trying to spend $2,000 for bottle service
Right.
or whatever the fuck it
Right.
costs these days. Like,
And I
no,
used to love clubs. I was a big club
Oh,
girl.
little club
I
kid.
loved I loved a boogie from, when I was I'm joking.
A
But when
boogie.
I don't know, and if I said that to my girls, they'd be like, oh my God, Mom, you cringe. But, I went to clubs when I was 15, 16,
Yeah.
and all the way up to, amazing clubs when I was living in Europe. But I loved that scene. Whereas my now husband, who I met when I was 24, he can't dance to save his life. I mean, he's got he was doing the dad dance at 24.
Yeah, no rhythm.
No rhythm. He absolutely hates it. And so then there's that too, right?
Yeah.
And because I would always be going to clubs with my girlfriends and out until 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Which that is not my husband's bag, Max's bag, being out till 5. He's like, no, I want to go home, go to bed. I mean, even probably, I think when he was 24, he wasn't really very interested. Where I was always out, like my girls do that now, they're clubbing.
Yeah.
I was doing the same thing, coming home at
Wow.
5 o'clock in the morning, because I thought it was amazing. And then you get sick of it.
Yeah, of course. Well, you want to meet so many people. You want to do all the things.
That's it. You want to
FOMO.
continuously, FOMO,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. You want to continuously meet people. So there is continuously temptation.
Yes.
And if you're younger, you're possibly not attached, then, well, obviously then it's not an issue, but there are continuously people, there's continuously temptation. So then I would ask this listener, the question of like, where are you going that you're always, I mean, is he talking like every day, like he goes and gets his coffee from Starbucks and he has a flirty flirt with
Right,
the barista
barista.
or whoever.
And then he comes into work and his secretary is like
Yeah,
hot for
like,
him. And then
what is going on?
this man lives a very sexual life.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it sounds like a very exciting life, quite frankly. But I mean, the short answer to his dilemma is, if he is with somebody that he's committed to, and they have decided they're committed, and it's a monogamous relationship, and they shouldn't be, seeing, doing whatever other people, then you can't.
Yeah.
And the temptations, and if you have a high sex drive, you got to find a way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you don't, trouble will be afoot.
Trouble sounds like it already is.
Yeah, there will be trouble because your desire, your sex drive will be much too powerful.
100%. And it's so hard, especially when you have those high desires. High desires. For just the people who you're seeing every day.
Penis. She's being all
I honestly
serious.
should have.
And my head
I
went
should
to
have.
penis. Yeah, sorry.
When you have the high desires for the penis, when you have the high desires for the people that you're seeing every day, like we're saying, or just like,
well, that's a problem, isn't it?
I think it's also just so hard with social media. We spoke about this briefly. Like, you have so many people who you're seeing every day on social media that you're like, maybe you're speaking to them, maybe you're replying to their stories, they're replying to your stories. Like, you think that they want to fuck you, and then maybe you like hang out for coffee and you're like, I don't fucking like this person, and then you're like, just kidding, I want to go back to my partner. Like, it's like a kind of a cycle where you it's like the grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
It's like you want to fuck someone else because it's going to be more exciting, or maybe you're just not getting enough at home, and you gotta get yourself into this bad situation, this bad rhetoric in your head.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say that if you are with somebody and you're like that sort of classic image of you're sort of embracing your partner, but your eye is kind of always looking over that person's shoulder to see who else is around. If that is your frame of mind, this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
With this, that is not a good place to be. If you are just talking about the fact that, of course, you find people attractive, or you have a bit of flirty banter with somebody, or there are situations where you see a very attractive woman or man and kind of think, oh, what's going on beneath? That is completely normal.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone feels those feelings.
Yes.
They just don't act on them. It's just kind of, it passes and that's it, right?
Yes.
That is completely normal. But that, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't be some major battle. It should be just a normal kind of healthy human being.
100%.
If you are continually looking over your partner's shoulder that you supposedly love and want to be with forever and blah, 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 your prince or princess charming.
Oh, God.
And you are always thinking, is there another whatever out there? Then there's your problem.
But this is what I always say, like, there's no way we only have, and I know you believe in soulmates or whatever, there's no fucking way you only have one goddamn soulmate and you're meant to be with this person forever. It's like there are many people who you may match with that might be better matches for different reasons. Maybe they're all not perfect, but you have better matches for some reasons, better matches with other reasons. And you're never going to be completed by this person. So it's like you have to obviously learn how to entertain yourself if you want to make a commitment work. But if you don't want to make the commitment work, then that's your answer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I know we differ on this. Just to kind of add my 2 cents worth. I think, and I do actually think this is a generational thing because I hear it a lot, and particularly from Gen Zs and millennials, this idea of this person can't fulfill me 100% or be my 100%. And I would say, I think it is, for my generation, I would say, of course they can't.
Yeah.
They're a human being. But that's the point. And I would say about myself, I was never looking for somebody that could be my 100%. I'm not anybody's 100%. How are they going to be and why do I need 100%? So I think it's just my perspective is completely different. I look at it in a completely different way. But the issue of temptation is a separate thing that I think for most people, it bubbles in a small way. Some people, if it's huge, then it is problematic. It really is. And if you are going to act on those urges and that sounded very strange. We've been spending a lot of time with Mr. Mowgli today, so
my God.
I don't know what that was. But anyway, now I completely lost my train of thought.
You were talking
You're going to act on your urges, then that is a whole different thing. And we have done episodes on monogamy and polyamory, and there are a lot in those relationships where they're ethically non-monogamous and they've set all those boundaries, and that's incredible that they can do that. And that is exactly what you should be doing. You should not be, and we did this episode on fuckboys, like you should not be promising shit to people, fake promises to get them into bed, telling them any old bullshit to get them into bed. I mean, you probably shouldn't be believing either, but that's another discussion. But it's this question of you know what your relationship is with the person you're with. You know what you should know that. So you know that if you do something and you step over the lines and the boundaries that you've already set, you're going to hurt them. And so you have to, it's self-control, and that's the end of it. And if those urges and temptations are too big, then maybe you should actually question what you're doing with that person.
Yeah.
And then we go into your territory talking about the 100%.
Yeah.
Because nobody is going to tick all of your boxes. They're just
No.
going to tick most of them. And you're going to want to spend your time with them. So if I talk from my perspective, I want to spend my time with my husband. And for many reasons, he's very supportive, and, you know, he's a very, I guess, supportive person and a very strong person in my life, particularly for me, who's come from not a great childhood. And I found somebody who was incredibly supportive, and that was really important. And maybe inadvertently I was looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there are things that he does that annoy me, and I do things that annoy him. I mean, of course you do. There's no way you could be, yes, I'm absolutely perfect, although of course I am no. And then
You are the queen, darling.
I am the queen. That's just not going to happen.
Yes. It's very tough because it's like, obviously, no one's going to be a 100%.
No.
You
it's
can't ask
impossible.
for that. But it is like, there.
Why are you looking for it?
There's always going to be another person who...
Possibly.
Yes, exactly. Like possibly. Like there's always that possibility, but as long as you're not like I try not to regret any of my decisions because they all bring you to where you are right now. But, you know, you have to be in the mindset of like, you don't have to look for something or someone, but you have to be open to possibilities.
Yes.
Obviously, you don't want to hurt anyone in between that. But, you know, there's always another fish in the sea.
There's always another fish.
Whether if they're better or they're worse, or maybe they're the same, or, you know, good and bad in different ways. You know, maybe this person is not the one for you. And that's totally fucking okay.
Absolutely. If the temptations are too frequent, too often, and I would say, and I always say this, if they're becoming obsessive, if anything in your life you are doing to an obsessive level, and I don't care whether it's sex, whether it's alcohol, whether it's eating, whether it's gaming, I don't care what it is. If you're doing it to wanking and it's obsessive, you have got an issue.
Yeah.
I don't like to say problem. There is an issue. If it is overtaking your life, then there's an issue.
Yeah.
And you need to tackle what that issue is. Shopping, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
If you like doing certain things, like you like having a pizza on a Friday night or shopping on a Saturday or whatever they are, within boundaries, or, you know, even the boundaries of sex, or like I just said, wanking, masturbating. You know, then it's okay. But if it overtakes everything else in your life, it doesn't matter what it is, then you are creeping into somewhere where there's an issue. So that would be my response to this listener. If it sounds to us like the message that we got, that these temptations are quite big. So if they are becoming obsessive and they are really consuming your thoughts, which kind of his message sounded a bit like that, then you need to think about that bit, if that makes sense. If it's just every day, like, oh, I saw a girl, she's quite cute, or I wondered what her boobs looked like, or whatever it is, or vajayjay, or whatever.
Yeah, see this girl's nipples out.
Exactly. That's come on, that's totally different. But if it's taking over your life, it doesn't matter what it is, then you need to take pause for thought. There you go.
Mel, I love that.
That's my answer.
Honestly, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. I think obviously being obsessed about anything isn't good.
No.
And you have to take pause.
You do.
For thought. Is that what you said?
Pause for thought. Yes.
I love it. Pause for thought. Well, I hope this really helped our listener.
I really do. And
for anyone else who is obviously dealing with temptation or cheating or anything like that in their lives.
Absolutely. And I would like to also say to this listener, thank you. Sorry, I don't know what that funny sound was. Thank you very much for leaving that message, because that also takes a lot of courage.
Yes.
Something you're struggling with and you're trying to find an answer. And I would like to say to you, from me, is that you have taken the first step by trying to find an answer, or searching, or speaking, voicing it. That's a big deal, rather than it going round and round and round in your head and driving you mad.
Absolutely. And that's what we love. Like, we we are having these conversations because these are things that we've obviously thought about too.
Of course.
This person is not alone. Whoever else is dealing with this is not alone. These are real things that happen in everyday life,
Absolutely.
and it's fucking hard to be a human.
Everything we talk about on this podcast is things that have happened to us. You know, that's why we call it, the podcast is called Sharing My Truth.
Yeah.
Because it's about things that have happened or happen to people all the time.
Yes.
And life and feelings and thoughts and sex and everything else is not easy. We all think it should be straightforward, but it's not.
No.
And there you go. That's
I love it.
That's it.
If you guys want, if anyone listening wants to share any voicemail with us, you can find that on sharingmytruth.com. And you can go there and click the little voicemail button, leave us a voicemail, and we will listen to it. And you might end up on the podcast. Not your voice, obviously, but another version of yourself. And we will talk about it and discuss. You can always say in your voicemail if you'd like to include it or if you just want us to talk about it or whatever. You can also leave information like that. You can always DM us on our social media. You can obviously, we're going to keep everything anonymous. DM us. You can say if you'd like this included or if not, we just want to chat. We're happy to just chat with you guys. That's amazing. That's what we love to do. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. We love hearing from you, and we're all dealing with this again. Don't feel like you're alone.
Absolutely.
Everyone's trying to fuck.
Very well, there you go. She said it.
Well, thanks so much, guys. I can't wait to hear you. I can't wait to talk to you next week.
Absolutely.
I
More
love you,
chat.
babes.
I love you too, darling.
Okay, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Please rate and review this podcast and follow us on social at Sharing My Truth Pod, and leave us a voicemail on our website, sharingmytruth.com, to share your stories and experiences with us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.